what a returns variance analysis is. We'll go through a quick case study, a live one that you'll be surprised by the numbers, and how technology and robots and automation will really help the returns variance go much smoothly, and what you guys can do next on that side. Right, so 'tis the season. It's Thanksgiving is just around the corner, and believe it or not, less than 80 days before Christmas. So I'm sure everyone's getting ready for the Christmas shopping, Thanksgiving, and so forth. However, this little elf is not too jolly. A couple of reasons why is because this Cyber Monday, they're going to predict a 20% increase in total spending. And typically, returns are in line with that increase. Not only that, we've seen online sale retailers have more liberal return policies, so it makes it easier for the consumer to return product that they may like, or they're going to try, they sample. I'm sure a lot of you guys have, Amazon Prime, and they're able to go ahead and order a product and so easily returned. Now, as the consumer has that flexibility, there is a trend that you do see that almost 58% of the shoppers will return product within the first month, right? So often return policies are extended during the holiday period, but I think we've conditioned consumers that they buy it, they don't like it, they return it immediately, and it's very, very convenient. Beyond the month, they keep it, right? So they keep it through there, but this is a trend that you will see. And as you plan your business, please keep this in mind because your volume of returns will come back pretty quickly. This is just a high-level overview of the product supply chain, right? I'm not going to go through each section here, but the point is, as suppliers, we make it as seamless as possible for our retailers and consumers. So we make sure we get the pricing right, we make sure that we get the quantity right, and we deliver it in a as timely as possible. So, suppliers always try to get it to the consumer as quickly and as accurately as possible. You can see that the information flow is both ways, and the money, once it gets to the consumer, the money will come back to the vendors, depending upon your terms, hopefully just as quickly as we can get the product to them. However, on the reverse logistics, right? When that return comes back from the consumer through the retailer, whether it's through their warehouse, through their stores, or so forth, the retailers really don't want to hold on to that product. It costs them money to have that product in their warehouse, so they get it back to you as quickly as possible, right? Very different from the forward logistics. We're concerned about the product and it being nice and neat and boxed correctly. Well, on the reverse logistics, as you can see on the bottom right-hand side, right? They just want to get it off their shelves and back to you. So often returns, you will see missing items, wrong product is shipped. The pricing isn't correct because they bought over different periods. There's often shipping, handling that you guys have to pay. Sometimes if you have returns discounts, they take those as well as return the product on wrong RMAs or no RMAs, right? So it's a lot more messier on the reverse logistics side. Now, what is a returns variance analysis, right? So I know I joke here and I say it's easier to explain, but often you're going to look at the RMA, RTV number, and you're going to look at the invoice, the quantity, the date of the price. It comes back. You match that return to the credit that is issued from your, from the information that's received from your warehouse. You look at the discrepancies and then you tell the retailer whether it's the pricing, quantity, variances, right? So often those are the things, or missing product that your team is going to go ahead and reconcile and go ahead and try and get that money back from them for any discrepancies that are there. Now, often there's a lot of research involved, right? So I know that flowchart in the previous slide was very simplistic, but your teams do actually go through a lot of systems and then through the data. So often you're going to go to your ERP system, either your warehousing system. Often the retailers, they're going to look for the tracking number, the pricing data, because like I said, the product may have been brought over a period of time, and there may have been discounts, there may have been promotions. So that price point may be going up and down, depending upon how you guys are selling into the retailers. But that does create a lot of complexity. Now they've got to pull the data and match it. Often your warehouse may not have the RMA number matched to the correct RMA. Retailers may be shipping more or under on specific return requests. And often it's well, our warehouse is perfect. We ship everything in boxes as clean as possible. But I'm sure, as most of you know, when that information is received at the warehouse, it's not as clean. In my career, I've seen bricks being returned, shoes being returned, and this is in the entertainment industry, right? Not selling bricks, we're selling, DVDs, games, and so forth. And you may often will see anything, because, like I said, these large retailers have return warehouses where everything goes in, and often they don't separate it by supplier, and there's a mishmash of product that does come back into your warehouses. Now, what types of return variances, right? Again, they may require you to do a one-to-one match on an RMA. They may ask you to do quarterly returns variances, or they may even pick a period and say, over a 6-month period, let's go ahead and do a return sampling, right? So often in my career, one-to-one is easier to explain, but often it's a finger pointing. Well, our warehouse does it well, your warehouse must have missed something. You have to go and pull PODs, they have to pull PODs. The quarterly return variances, you're pulling massive amount of data. You have multiple price points that are coming through there, and then definitely higher variances also through there. And so it is a mess, and to get it organized, often the distributors and the suppliers are leaving money on the table because it's a he said, she said, and then the onus is on you to prove that they actually messed up in returning that product to you. Now, how much is at stake, right? So this is just a simple example of one return, return variance that we did, and it shows, $39.40, right, on a $1,500 return. Now, that's just one return. That can add up, and it can cost hundreds, or you could leave hundreds of thousands of dollars on your books as bad debt or automatic write-offs as well. So it's not so easy to do, right? Most companies have come up with some rudimentary form of automation, right? So they're able to pull the data, they're able to pull it into Excel spreadsheets, create pivot tables. They've also, created databases and try to crunch all of this data through there, one, in a timely manner, and two, as accurately as possible. And as that data is coming through there, if there's any error in your calculations, often retailers will point that out and say, okay, how credible is your data on these variances? So it's not that easy. And the holidays creates another level of complexity as the volumes are coming in I mentioned earlier on, right? So there's just an intense amount of volumes that comes in. And I'll talk about staffing in a second. Right, so here's a true life case study of a very large distributor, processes hundreds of thousands of returns from a variety of retailer. So as a distributor, they're in the middle from the supplier, and they get the most amount of complexity, as you probably know. So the problem, right? So they have the manufacturer, they will send it to the distributor that we're talking about, and then product forward logistics will go to them and it will come back, right? And any returns variances is the responsibility of the distributor to not only go back to the retailer, but also back to the manufacturer to say, hey, by the way, here's the product that didn't come back, and here's what the retailer is taking from it, right? And as a distributor, they have razor thin margins, being the guy in the middle across here. So this was a very real financial issue with the distributor. Now what happened, right? So basically they had 5,000 returns per month, right? Triple the volume during the holidays. And it took a month to process the returns, right? And I mentioned earlier on, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars being lost, unreconciled. And often the retailers now are coming up with timelines. So within 90 days of that return coming back, if you don't reconcile it and give it to us, then the variance you have to eat, right? So being the distributor is really important to make sure that, one, they did it in a timely manner so that they can recoup as much from the retailer as possible so as not to impact the manufacturer. How did they try to solve the problem? First of all, added staff, right? So it's seasonal. If the volume triples during that time of year, then they're going to triple the staff, right? And they did add some automation to a certain extent where it was possible. But like I said, they're razor thin margins. So investing in internal technology, often the money doesn't go there, which is unfortunate. Now, they had heard about iNymbus, right? And they asked iNymbus to develop a proof of concept. Before they got bought into the process, they said, okay, we've heard about your RPA, robotic process automation. We have this issue with a middleman. Can you build a proof of concept, right? Where they would actually go ahead and do Amazon, Walmart, Fry's returns across the board. So they not only wanted to do the returns variances, but they also wanted to make sure that that was submitted in a timely manner, right? So they had teams of people that were doing the returns variances and then uploading it into the retailer portals, right? Because now the retailers are making you do their work and cutting that timeline, like I mentioned earlier on. Now, so they met with the iNymbus folks, and they said, how long did it take? So over a couple of conference calls, right, where iNymbus, records the conversation, records the process of what the distributor was doing. They recorded that and they went back, right, for about a month, and then they came back with more questions. It was, back and forth a little bit to better make sure that iNymbus are building the bots that will truly help the returns variance. Now, this was a before picture, and I'm going to go through this very quickly in the sense that the customer, retailer, they fetch the data, AR reconciles it. Again, the analyst has to navigate through multiple systems. They have to do the variance, they have to make, copies, scan them, and upload them, and then eventually they will go ahead and dispute that returns variance. Now, what iNymbus was able to do, this was the before picture, and then this is the after picture, right? So again, the customer and retailer is still going to communicate, so forth. But now what iNymbus was, they went ahead and built several bots across the whole return variance process, right? So the first bot will go ahead and automatically fetch that data from the ERP systems. This can be done daily, or it can be done instantaneously, or whenever that information is available. So the bots are able to pull that information. They already know what the RMA is. They already know when it's going to be coming back, or when it does hit the warehouse, right? So they're always pulling that information. Now the bots can also perform, the next bot would perform the automated validation between the systems, right? So yes, I have the right data, I have the right pricing information for these specific returns. It's a specific period of time. I've got that information, and now what am I going to do with it? So the next bot will navigate through, pull all the information from the web portals, at a line level detail, right? And then they'll go ahead and reconcile that automatically. They will do the variance and finally hand it over to the last bot, which will go ahead and upload into the retailer portal. So end to end, from the before to the after, it really freed up the distributors' team's time, right? So the bots were able to go in, get that data, reconcile it, and upload it. Now, when it was all over, did they lay off the staff? No, they really didn't. They came back to iNymbus and they said, well, this is really good. We freed up our staff's time to actually do more analytical work, right? What is going on with the returns? What is the source of it? Is it a specific warehouse, their warehouse, or a retailer's warehouse? And can we truly fix the problem? So they got out of the day-to-day work of dealing with all of this paperwork that was created. Now, not only that, they also didn't need to worry about the upcoming season, because if the volumes increase, guess what? The robots just kept working harder. Instead of having to, add more staff, you just, turn up the volume with the number of bots that you have as the volumes increase as well. So they actually repurposed some of the staff and gave them an opportunity to do more analytical work than some of the return processing. Now, some of the benefits that they saw of robotic process automation, right? It improved, I'm going to go to the top right-hand side, it improved employee morale tremendously, right? Productivity also. So when morale is up, productivity increases, and the bots are actually there helping across there with the productivity. Reliability, right? So you know the data, and the bots are doing the data. No more formula errors that may have occurred. There's consistency. So now you have, in a timely manner, the bots are able to go ahead and do that. They don't take coffee breaks, they don't take tea breaks, they don't even celebrate Christmas or Thanksgiving. They're there consistently going ahead and processing it. On the bottom, left-hand side, it's a non-invasive technology, right? So it adds to your team. It's not taking away from your team. It's actually technology that will help them with their analytical skills and help them with their processing, as well. Compliance, I mentioned that earlier. In a timely manner, you're able to get it there to the retailers and not miss those windows. Low technical barrier, right? So this is robotic process automation isn't a whole new ERP installation. It's not an installation of a bolt-on software where you have to do a lot of configuration, a lot of setups and so forth. What it does is it really is streamlined. It's a back office process, what the bots are really doing. And accuracy, I think I mentioned that with the consistency piece of it. Yep, so accurate, they get it right. And if there's any variances, they'll be able to identify that, to the distributor as well. Now, this holiday season, only their robots will be exhausted, not the AR team. I did mention that earlier on, right? So the bots will continue to work, and hopefully the AR team will have looked at last year's data and will look at this year's data and be proactive with the retailers, with their warehouses, to say, hey, by the way, this is what we should watch out for. This is how we should plan, anticipating Black Friday and Cyber Monday, to say, okay, here's what's going to happen, and let's be a little bit more smart about this and have those conversations with the retailers. Now, SaaS, right? Everyone's heard of, software as a service, but, robots, right, as a service. I mentioned this earlier. Yeah, RPA is the buzzword and has been the buzzword for almost over a year plus. But basically, what robotic process automation is, and what I described earlier on, is the business process that whenever it's repetitive, set of actions is just performed by humans. However, the bots will do that for you, right? But the new thing that iNymbus is building in is a little bit of artificial intelligence in there, behind the scenes. So as they're getting that data, the bots are getting smarter, and the technology is getting smarter, where they can start to anticipate specific variances, or they can group returns, preferences. My preference would be to do RMA by RMA, but often retailers don't want you to do that. But there is a trend where retailers are saying you're going to do return by return. That means you're going to have to hire a lot of people, whereas in the RPA, you can actually hire your own army of bots. IT trend, right? So, and again, this is just a generic company where they've seen RPA out there. So the IT guys are saying, you know what? We're going to build our own bots, right? There's technology out there. Why give it out to a third party when we can build it for ourselves? Well, what I've seen is that, they're not necessarily experts in robotic process automation, because that has always been built outside. They're not experts in the return variances, and they may not be experts in other variances either. I'm talking about the IT guys, right? And often what you find is you'll find consultants that will come in and say, yes, we have RPA technology, we've been using it a while for our processes and so forth, but they don't necessarily understand your processes, and it will take a huge IT budget to even roll this out. And what I've experienced is they put in a budget for RPA, great. The C-suite have all heard of this. We're going to put it in, and they have to do a justification for all of these RPA. And by the time they go to each and every single department, often accounts receivable and credit are left at the bottom, and it's not a it's not a process that will become higher. Sales and marketing, of course, get greater focus on that side, but high IT budget, multiple departments get involved, and it takes a long time to just get off the ground. And then, like I said, by the time it gets to the receivables and then prioritization and so forth, it can be very, very cumbersome. Now, what I would do, and what I recommend to a lot of companies, is basically do the bottoms approach, right? Take one process, right? Such as return variances that we've been talking about, right? Find the robotic specialists, right? Who have the AR experience, who understand what it takes to do forward and reverse logistics, right? And go to them and say, okay, let's have a look at this one process. It's not going to be a huge IT spend. It's not going to be tough to sell to your boss or to the CFO. You can reduce the risk. Do a proof of concept, right? There's no risk in whatsoever with a proof of concept. If it works, then it's a quick win. Do one process, like I said, be it returns process variance, especially right before the holidays as you're coming into there, is get that in place and then do that instead of trying to do that huge IT project. Now, iNymbus, right? They do level the playing field, not only in this, but other variances as well. So they do have bots that will do other things. But plain and simple, you have to fight the retailers, because they have no investment in getting that return to you accurately. They just want it off their shelves and back to you. But with bots in here, you're able to reconcile them quicker, timely, and meet their requirement. What's next? So basically, one of the things with what iNymbus does offer is, right, so get in touch with their sales organization and request a demo, right? See what the robotic process is all about. And, they have several bots, like I said, do different things that specialize in those areas. Assess them, right? Put them side by side with other RPA companies that are out there. Do that assessment, and then I would definitely highly recommend implementing those bots. If you have time before the holidays, like I said, Christmas is less than 80 days away. Thanksgiving is just around the corner. But I know typically most of the returns come back in the first quarter, calendar quarter, should I say. So if you guys can get ready before that, then even better. Now, this will help. Once you have the bots in place, they will be putting out the fires, right, for you. So they're not putting out the fires. They will be going ahead and processing those return variances. Now your team can do more strategic and analytical work than needed. Sorry, that is needed, not than needed. Final advice on robots, right? Focus on your department, on your issues. AR often is thought of last, especially when it comes to spending money, right? Spend the time on robotics and figure out what that specific problem is for your department, right? Don't try to solve all of your issues by saying, okay, I'm going to build all of these robots across the board. Do that one issue, get it right, and then over the years or over months, you should be able to start to see how the bots are working, and then you can add more and more bots as needed to really free up your team's time to do, like I said, more analytical, build that morale up as well. Now, there are bolt-ons that are out there, to SAP, to any ERP system that's out there, that say that they can, they have robotic process automation, that they can have a lot of that data. I would just encourage you to do a side-by-side comparison to see whether they truly have that bot technology and whether they're really looking at return variances, because they do sell an all-in-one accounts receivable package that will do collections and so forth for you, but do they specialize in your problem that you're looking for, and knowledge, right? So if you find somebody, last but not least, but if you find somebody who has that industry knowledge, who understands forward and reverse logistics, and figuring out what the variance is, where to get that data, and how to crunch the data, that's what my final advice would be, to find a company like that. Now, if you want to learn more, I'm sure RVCF will send out this deck as well as the links, or you can find them on iNymbus. Actually, if you go there directly, you can find these across there as well. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, we do have some questions here. First question we received: what type of savings have you seen from implementing robots for shipper claims?
Sorry, could you repeat that again? I didn't hear that. What type of savings? Savings. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Well, it's really difficult to calculate the amount of savings, right? So there is definitely the manpower portion of it, where you're able to free up your team's time to do more analytical work, right? We have seen from that case study where returns that were left outside of the date to submit, they've been able to get that money back, right? And so it varies company by company, but I see a savings in manpower. I see a savings on the bottom line to get that money back, and especially on the variances. So it does help across the board for sure.
Okay. How fast could we be up and running with our own robots?
Like I mentioned earlier, it's a pretty quick process, right? So one, pick a single process. Pick a retailer or a shipper or multiple retailers, but make sure your process is consistent across those retailers, right? And iNymbus does record the call, records your process, and they'll go back, and within 4 weeks is a really quick turnaround. We'll build those bots. Now they already have bots that do this, right? So it's just fine-tuning the bots that they have to your process and your systems, right? And it doesn't really take them that much. And the longest we've seen is 2 months, but they're up and running within 6 weeks.
Okay. And we have a last question here. When putting in robots for my company, how much will my IT need to be involved?
That all depends, right? So the biggest thing that iNymbus needs is access to the data. And with a lot of their clients, what they've done is the clients will push the data to iNymbus, right? So there's no programming involved from IT, right? So it's basically getting access to their data. And if you have a pretty efficient IT department, takes less than 8 hours, less than a day of work for your IT organization to provide that data for iNymbus to really get those bots working.
Great. Thank you for all of the questions. A link to the on-demand version of this webinar will be sent to you following our program. On behalf of RVCF, we'd like to welcome you for attending today's seminar. For those of you who have further questions about the material covered in today's presentation or whose questions were not addressed in the Q&A portion, please feel free to contact Ruben Serino directly. Thanks, Rohit. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.